The Reign of King Witiza and the Prelude to the Conquest. Reign of King Witiza, 698 to 710 CE. The Iberian Peninsula, in the waning years of the 7th century, was a land of great complexity and beauty. Rolling plains met rugged mountains, while bustling cities bore the marks of Roman grandeur. The Visigothic kingdom ruled over these lands, with its capital at Toledo, a city of strategic and cultural importance. In 698 CE, King Egica's reign came to an end, and his son, Witiza, ascended the throne. Witiza, a young and ambitious ruler, inherited a kingdom marked by its aristocratic factions and religious discord. Determined to consolidate his power and bring stability to his realm, Witiza embarked on a series of bold reforms. Exciting news. Before we dive into today's video, I have something amazing to share with you. Ever thought about learning Hebrew? Now's your chance. We're thrilled to offer our beginner Hebrew class, where you set your own budget. That's right, you decide how much you want to invest in your Hebrew learning journey, and we'll review your registration to make it work for you. Plus, to kickstart your adventure, we're offering 3 free introductory classes. No strings attached, just an opportunity to see how fun and rewarding learning Hebrew can be.
And the A sound is 2 dots underneath the consonants.
So we have which shorish represented in line 9?
Baraka.
Very good, barach.
So don't wait. Take the first step towards mastering Hebrew and exploring a rich new culture. Click the link in the description to sign up now and begin your Hebrew journey. All right, let's get back to the video. A vision for unity. Witiza's vision was one of unity and centralized authority. He sought to curtail the power of the nobility and reduce the influence of the church, which had grown powerful and, at times, oppositional. He implemented measures to ease the burdens on the peasantry, hoping to win their support and strengthen the kingdom from within. His policies, however, were met with resistance. The powerful Visigothic nobility, accustomed to their privileges and autonomy, viewed Witiza's reforms with suspicion and hostility. Tensions simmered beneath the surface as the young king struggled to maintain control over his fractious realm. The shadow of conflict. As Witiza sought to enforce his policies, he faced growing opposition. His attempts to reduce the church's influence led to clashes with ecclesiastical leaders. Meanwhile, the nobility, feeling threatened by his centralizing efforts, began to conspire against him. In the royal court, whispers of dissent grew louder. Factions formed, each with its own ambitions and grievances. The kingdom, once held together by the strong hand of Witiza's father, began to show signs of unraveling. The death of the king and the succession crisis. In 710 CE, King Witiza's reign came to an abrupt and mysterious end. The circumstances of his death remain shrouded in mystery, with some accounts suggesting foul play. Witiza's sudden demise left a power vacuum, and the question of succession loomed large over the kingdom. Witiza's sons, who believed they were the rightful heirs, found their claim challenged by a powerful nobleman named Roderick. Roderick, a seasoned warrior with substantial support among the nobility, saw an opportunity to seize the throne for himself. The kingdom plunged into a bitter and chaotic succession crisis. A kingdom divided. The struggle for power tore the kingdom apart. Witiza's supporters and those loyal to his sons clashed with Roderick's forces, leading to a period of intense civil strife. The once unified Visigothic kingdom fractured into competing factions, each vying for dominance. The political instability weakened the kingdom's defenses. As the nobles and royal factions fought amongst themselves, the borders were left vulnerable. The distant Umayyad Caliphate, ever watchful and opportunistic, took note of the turmoil spreading through Hispania. The call for assistance. Amid this chaos, a Visigothic noble named Julian, who governed the fortress of Ceuta on the North African coast, found himself disillusioned with Roderick's claim to the throne. According to some historical accounts, Julian had personal grievances against Roderick, adding a layer of intrigue and betrayal to the unfolding drama. Julian reached out to Musa ibn Nusayr, the governor of the Umayyad territories in North Africa. He offered to aid the Muslims in their conquest of Hispania, promising crucial support and intelligence. This act of defection set in motion events that would forever alter the fate of the Iberian Peninsula. The stage is set. The death of King Witiza and the subsequent power struggle left the Visigothic kingdom ripe for conquest. As the civil war raged on, the Muslim forces prepared to cross the Strait of Gibraltar. In the spring of 711 CE, under the command of Tariq ibn Ziyad, they launched their invasion, beginning the dramatic and transformative Islamic conquest of Andalusia. Thus, the stage was set for one of history's most significant and far-reaching conquests, born out of political intrigue, betrayal, and the unquenchable thirst for power. The Conquest Begins, Tariq ibn Ziyad and the Battle of Guadal. The crossing of the strait, spring 711 CE. The year was 711 CE, a pivotal moment in history. The tranquil waters of the Strait of Gibraltar mirrored the calm before a storm. On the North African coast, a fleet of ships prepared to embark on a journey that would change the fate of an entire continent. At the helm of this bold expedition was Tariq ibn Ziyad, a seasoned Berber general under the command of Musa ibn Nusayr, the Umayyad governor of Ifriqiya. Tariq stood on the deck of his lead ship, his gaze fixed on the distant horizon where the Iberian Peninsula lay. The soldiers under his command, a diverse mix of Berbers, Arabs, and other Muslims, were resolute and eager. They were driven by the promise of new lands, the spread of their faith, and the lure of glory. As the fleet set sail, the anticipation was palpable. The strait's currents carried them swiftly toward their destination. Upon reaching the Iberian coast, Tariq and his forces disembarked at a rocky outcrop that would forever bear his name, Jabal Tariq, or Gibraltar. The preparation for battle. With a sense of urgency, Tariq gathered his troops and delivered an impassioned speech.
"O my warriors,"
He declared,
"whither would you flee? Behind you is the sea, before you the enemy. There is no escape for you save in valor and determination. Remember that your only salvation is to find victory or to meet death."
The gravity of their mission weighed heavily on every soldier's heart. Tariq ordered the burning of their ships, a dramatic gesture that left them no option but to press forward. The smoldering vessels behind them symbolized their resolve. There would be no retreat. As the Muslim forces advanced inland, they encountered little resistance. The internal strife and political fragmentation of the Visigothic kingdom had left it vulnerable. Towns and villages fell swiftly, their inhabitants taken aback by the sudden and relentless advance of the invaders. The Battle of Guadal, July 711 CE. The decisive moment arrived in July 711 CE. King Roderick, the Visigothic ruler who had seized the throne amidst a bitter succession crisis, hurriedly mustered his forces to confront the invaders. The two armies met near the Guadalete River, close to the modern-day town of Jerez de la Frontera. The battlefield buzzed with tension as the opposing forces arrayed themselves. On one side stood Tariq ibn Ziyad and his determined troops, numbering around 7,000. On the other, King Roderick's larger but less cohesive Visigothic army, reportedly arrayed in shimmering armor and led by Roderick himself, seated atop a grand white horse. As the sun rose, casting a golden glow over the landscape, the battle commenced. The clashing of swords and the thunderous charge of cavalry filled the air. Tariq's men fought with ferocity and discipline, their resolve unshaken by the larger enemy force. Tariq himself led from the front, his presence a rallying point for his soldiers. Roderick's forces, though numerous, were disorganized and plagued by internal divisions. The king's attempts to rally his troops were met with faltering loyalty. The Visigoths, already weakened by infighting, struggled to mount a unified defense. A decisive victory. As the battle raged on, the tide began to turn in favor of the Muslim forces. Tariq's strategic acumen and the disciplined execution of his troops overwhelmed the Visigothic lines. By the end of the day, the battlefield was littered with the fallen. Among them lay King Roderick, his fate sealed in the chaos of the rout. The victory at Guadalete was not just a triumph of arms, but a momentous shift in the region's history. The fall of Roderick and the decimation of his forces left the Visigothic kingdom in disarray. In the aftermath, Tariq ibn Ziyad and his men continued their relentless advance, capturing key cities like Córdoba, Seville, and Toledo in the months that followed. The legacy of Tariq ibn Ziyad. The Battle of Guadalete marked the beginning of a new era for the Iberian Peninsula. Tariq ibn Ziyad's daring leadership and the bravery of his soldiers paved the way for the establishment of Muslim rule in Al-Andalus. The cultural, scientific, and architectural achievements that would later flourish under Islamic rule were rooted in this initial conquest. Tariq's legacy endured, his name forever etched in the annals of history as the conqueror who bridged two worlds. The flames of his ship symbolized the irreversible march of history, a dramatic testament to the courage and determination that shaped the destiny of Andalusia. The era of expansion, the Muslim conquest of the Iberian Peninsula, 711 to 718 CE. After the Battle of Guadalete, the victory at the Battle of Guadalete in 711 CE marked the beginning of a sweeping campaign that would forever change the Iberian Peninsula. Tariq ibn Ziyad, buoyed by his triumph, wasted no time in capitalizing on the disarray within the Visigothic kingdom. His forces, though initially small, moved with speed and precision, exploiting the fractured and demoralized state of their opponents. The march to Córdoba, 712 CE. In the early months of 712 CE, Tariq set his sights on Córdoba, one of the most significant cities in the region. The city, known for its strategic and cultural importance, was a prized target. As Tariq's army approached, word of their swift and decisive victories spread, sowing fear and uncertainty among the defenders. The siege of Córdoba was intense but brief. Tariq's forces, experienced and determined, employed a mix of military strategy and psychological warfare. The gates of the city eventually yielded, and Córdoba fell into Muslim hands. The capture of Córdoba was not just a military victory, but also a symbolic one, heralding the dawn of a new era. The conquest of Seville, 712 to 713 CE. Following the fall of Córdoba, the momentum of the Muslim forces seemed unstoppable. Seville, another vital city, was next in their sights. Seville's fortified walls and strong defenses posed a challenge, but Tariq's army was undeterred. Through a combination of diplomacy and military might, the city was besieged. The Muslim forces demonstrated both their martial prowess and their ability to govern, offering terms of surrender that promised stability and protection. Faced with the choice between resistance and pragmatism, Seville's leaders chose to open their gates. The city fell, adding another jewel to the rapidly expanding Umayyad dominion. The capture of Toledo, 711 to 714 CE. Toledo, the Visigothic capital, represented the heart of the kingdom. Its capture would signify the complete upheaval of the existing order. As Tariq and his forces advanced, they were joined by Musa ibn Nusayr, who brought reinforcements from North Africa to consolidate their gains and ensure the success of the campaign. The approach to Toledo was methodical and relentless. By 714 CE, the Muslim forces reached the city. The defenders, already demoralized by the loss of their king and the swift fall of other key cities, were in disarray. After a series of skirmishes and a blockade, Toledo capitulated. The ripple effect. The rapid expansion of Muslim control from 711 to 718 CE was not just a series of military victories, but a profound transformation of the Iberian Peninsula. Key cities like Córdoba, Seville, and Toledo became centers of Islamic culture and administration. The new rulers implemented systems of governance that integrated local populations, promoting a degree of religious and cultural tolerance that was relatively progressive for the time. The foundation of Al-Andalus. By 718 CE, much of the Iberian Peninsula was under Muslim control. The region, now known as Al-Andalus, began to flourish under its new rulers. This period marked the beginning of a cultural and intellectual renaissance that would have lasting impacts on art, science, and architecture. The rapid Muslim expansion was driven by a combination of military strategy, diplomacy, and the effective administration of conquered territories. This transformative era laid the groundwork for centuries of Islamic influence, shaping the history and culture of the region in ways that still resonate today. The legacy of the conquest. The conquest of the Iberian Peninsula was a testament to the skill and determination of leaders like Tariq ibn Ziyad and Musa ibn Nusayr. Their ability to mobilize and inspire their forces, coupled with strategic acumen, enabled the swift and effective expansion of Muslim rule. The fall of cities like Córdoba, Seville, and Toledo not only demonstrated their military might, but also their capacity to integrate and govern diverse populations. As the new dawn rose over Al-Andalus, the legacy of this remarkable conquest began to take shape, setting the stage for a period of unparalleled cultural and intellectual achievements that would leave an indelible mark on the history of the Iberian Peninsula and beyond. The founding of the Emirate of Córdoba, Abd al-Rahman I's remarkable journey, 756 CE, a fugitive's journey. The year was 750 CE. The Umayyad Caliphate, which had ruled the Islamic world from Damascus, was brutally overthrown by the Abbasids. In the chaos of the Abbasid revolution, the Umayyad dynasty was nearly exterminated. Among the few survivors was a young prince, Abd al-Rahman, who fled his home to escape certain death. Abd al-Rahman's journey was perilous and fraught with danger. From Damascus, he traversed deserts and crossed treacherous seas, always one step ahead of his pursuers. His mother, a Berber, had instilled in him resilience and resourcefulness, qualities that would serve him well in the trials ahead. The ascent to power. After years of wandering and evading capture, Abd al-Rahman arrived in North Africa. There, he began to garner support from Berber tribes and other disaffected groups. He learned of the political instability in Al-Andalus, where the Muslim governors were locked in power struggles and factions vied for control. Seeing an opportunity, Abd al-Rahman made his way to Al-Andalus. In 755 CE, he landed on the Iberian Peninsula, his eyes set on reclaiming a semblance of his family's lost glory. With charisma and strategic acumen, he quickly rallied support among those who longed for stability and strong leadership. The Battle for Córdoba by 756 CE, Abd al-Rahman had amassed a formidable force. He marched on Córdoba, the jewel of Al-Andalus. The city, with its grand architecture and vibrant culture, was under the control of the local governor, Yusuf al-Fihri, who was unprepared for the determined challenge posed by Abd al-Rahman. The two forces clashed on the outskirts of the city. Abd al-Rahman, with his battle-hardened troops and unwavering resolve, led a ferocious assault. His men fought with the fervor of those who believed they were part of a divinely sanctioned mission. As the battle reached its climax, Abd al-Rahman, mounted on his horse, charged into the thick of the fray. His presence galvanized his troops, and the governor's forces began to waver. By the end of the day, Abd al-Rahman's banner flew over Córdoba, signaling a new era, the Emirate of Córdoba. With Córdoba under his control, Abd al-Rahman declared the establishment of the Emirate of Córdoba. He proclaimed himself emir, independent from the Abbasid Caliphate. This bold declaration was more than a claim to power. It was a statement of resilience and renewal for the Umayyad legacy. Abd al-Rahman first set about transforming Córdoba into a center of learning, culture, and prosperity. He initiated construction projects, including the Great Mosque of Córdoba, which would become a symbol of Islamic art and architecture. His administration was marked by efforts to integrate diverse communities, fostering a period of relative peace and stability. The legacy of Abd al-Rahman. Abd al-Rahman I's journey from fugitive to emir was a testament to his indomitable spirit and exceptional leadership. The Emirate of Córdoba thrived under his rule, laying the foundation for what would become one of the most enlightened and culturally rich periods in medieval history. The establishment of the Emirate of Córdoba marked the beginning of an era that would see Al-Andalus flourish as a beacon of knowledge, tolerance, and innovation. Abd al-Rahman I's legacy endured, his name remembered as the founder of a dynasty that brought a golden age to the Iberian Peninsula. In the annals of history, Abd al-Rahman I's story stands as a dramatic tale of survival, ambition, and the enduring power of vision and determination. His establishment of the Emirate of Córdoba in 756 CE was not just the creation of a political entity, but the rekindling of a cultural and intellectual flame that would burn brightly for centuries to come. The proclamation of the Caliphate of Córdoba, Abd al-Rahman III's triumph, 929 CE, the rise of a leader. The year was 929 CE. Abd al-Rahman III, a direct descendant of Abd al-Rahman I, had risen to power at a time of both opportunity and turmoil in Al-Andalus. The Emirate of Córdoba, though prosperous, faced challenges from within and threats from without. Regional nobles harbored ambitions of independence, and external foes coveted the wealth of the Iberian Peninsula. Abd al-Rahman III, a ruler of remarkable vision and ambition, saw an opportunity to not only solidify his own power, but to elevate Al-Andalus to unprecedented heights. He was determined to restore the unity and strength that his ancestors had established and to rival the grandeur of the Abbasid and Fatimid caliphates. The declaration, on a crisp morning in the grand city of Córdoba, a sense of anticipation hung in the air. The city's streets were adorned with banners, and the people gathered in the central plaza, their excitement palpable. Word had spread that their emir was to make an important announcement, one that would change the course of history. At the heart of the city stood the magnificent Great Mosque of Córdoba, a symbol of Islamic art and devotion. It was here, before an assembly of nobles, scholars, military leaders, and citizens, that Abd al-Rahman III chose to make his declaration. Dressed in resplendent robes, with a regal bearing that commanded respect, he addressed the crowd.
People of Al-Andalus,
His voice carrying across the plaza,
we stand at a pivotal moment in our history. Our land is a beacon of knowledge, culture, and prosperity. Yet, we face challenges that require unity and strength. It is with this in mind that I proclaim the establishment of the Caliphate of Córdoba. Henceforth, I shall be your caliph, not merely your emir.
The crowd erupted in applause and cheers, their enthusiasm a testament to their support for Abd al-Rahman's vision. By declaring himself caliph, Abd al-Rahman III asserted the independence and supremacy of Al-Andalus, positioning it as a rival to the other great Islamic powers of the time. The Golden Age. The proclamation of the Caliphate marked the beginning of a golden age for Al-Andalus. Under Abd al-Rahman III's rule, Córdoba became the jewel of the Islamic world. The city flourished, its streets bustling with merchants, scholars, and artisans from across the known world. It was a center of learning, where great minds gathered to share knowledge and advance the sciences, medicine, and philosophy. The Caliph invested in monumental architectural projects, including the expansion of the Great Mosque and the construction of the dazzling palace city of Madinat al-Zahra. These projects not only showcased the wealth and artistic prowess of Al-Andalus, but also served as symbols of the Caliphate's power and sophistication. Abd al-Rahman III's reign was characterized by relative peace and stability. He skillfully navigated diplomatic relations, forging alliances and securing treaties that protected and extended the influence of the Caliphate. His military campaigns, conducted with strategic brilliance, safeguarded the borders and subdued internal dissent. The legacy of Abd al-Rahman III. Abd al-Rahman III's proclamation of the Caliphate of Córdoba was more than a political maneuver. It was a statement of identity and ambition. It marked the peak of Islamic rule in Al-Andalus, a period of unparalleled cultural and intellectual achievement. The Caliphate became a model of religious tolerance, where Christians, Jews, and Muslims lived and worked together in relative harmony. Under his rule, Córdoba was not only a political capital, but also a cultural and intellectual beacon. The city's libraries, schools, and universities attracted scholars from across the world, creating a melting pot of ideas and knowledge. This period saw significant advancements in various fields, leaving a lasting legacy that would influence Europe and the wider world for centuries to come. The enduring flame. As the sun set on that historic day in 929 CE, the people of Córdoba looked to the future with hope and pride. Abd al-Rahman III's vision had set Al-Andalus on a path to greatness, establishing a legacy that would endure long after his reign. The Caliphate of Córdoba stood as a testament to the power of ambition, vision, and leadership. It was a reminder that even in the face of adversity, a determined and inspired leader could forge a new destiny for his people. Abd al-Rahman III's legacy is remembered as a shining example of what can be achieved when a ruler unites their people and aspires to greatness. Thus, the proclamation of the Caliphate of Córdoba in 929 CE remains a defining moment in the history of Andalusia, marking the zenith of Islamic rule and the dawn of a golden age that would leave an indelible mark on the annals of history. The collapse of the Caliphate of Cordoba, the rise of the Taifa kingdoms, 1031 CE, the glory and the decline. By the early 11th century, the Caliphate of Cordoba, once a beacon of power, culture, and learning, had begun to show signs of internal strife and weakness. The grand vision of Abd al-Rahman III had given way to a succession of weaker rulers, each unable to hold the diverse and sprawling territories together. Political intrigue, factionalism, and civil war plagued the once mighty caliphate. The unraveling begins. In the heart of Cordoba, the atmosphere grew increasingly tense. The palace, which had once been a center of grandeur and authority, now echoed with the whispers of conspiracies and the machinations of ambitious courtiers. The stability that had been the hallmark of the caliphate was unraveling. In 1031 CE, the city of Cordoba itself, the jewel of Al-Andalus, was in turmoil. The streets, once filled with scholars, merchants, and artisans, now witnessed skirmishes between rival factions. The populace, sensing the impending collapse, grew restless and uncertain about the future. The final blow. Amidst this chaos, a decisive moment arrived. The ruling caliph, Hisham III, found himself besieged not only by external threats but by internal dissent. His authority had eroded, and the once loyal governors of the provinces began to assert their independence. The people of Cordoba, exhausted by the continuous power struggles, yearned for a return to stability, even if it meant the end of the caliphate. In a dramatic scene within the walls of the Great Palace, a council of influential leaders, military commanders, and scholars convened. The air was thick with tension as they debated the future of the caliphate. Voices were raised, arguments were made, and finally, a consensus was reached. The decision was momentous. The Caliphate of Cordoba was to be formally dissolved. The announcement reverberated through the city. The Great Caliphate, which had stood as a symbol of unity and power for nearly 3 centuries, was no more. The once unified territory now faced a new reality, one marked by fragmentation and the rise of smaller, independent kingdoms. The rise of the Taifa kingdoms. As the caliphate disintegrated, the former provinces began to assert their autonomy. These regions, known as taifas, were ruled by local leaders who had once served under the caliphate but now saw an opportunity to establish their own dominions. Cities like Seville, Granada, Valencia, and Zaragoza emerged as centers of power, each ruled by its own taifa king. The Taifa period was one of both turmoil and cultural flourishing. While the fragmentation led to frequent conflicts and power struggles, it also spurred a remarkable period of artistic, scientific, and intellectual activity. The Taifas, competing for prestige and influence, became patrons of the arts and sciences, leading to a renaissance of culture in Al-Andalus. A new era of intrigue. The Taifa kings, each striving to expand their influence, engaged in intricate diplomacy and alliances. The former unity under the caliphate was replaced by a patchwork of rival kingdoms, each vying for dominance. This era was characterized by shifting alliances, betrayals, and intermittent warfare. Despite the political fragmentation, the legacy of the caliphate's cultural achievements endured. The Taifa courts became centers of learning and artistic expression. Scholars, poets, and artisans found patronage in the courts of these new rulers, ensuring that the intellectual and cultural flame of Al-Andalus continued to burn brightly. The legacy of the Caliphate. The collapse of the Caliphate of Cordoba in 1031 CE marked the end of an era, but also the beginning of a new chapter in the history of Al-Andalus. The fragmentation into Taifa kingdoms reflected the complexities and diversities of the region. While the political unity of the caliphate was lost, the cultural and intellectual heritage it had fostered continued to thrive in the courts of the Taifas. As the sun set on the caliphate, the landscape of Al-Andalus transformed. The new rulers, though often at odds, carried forward the legacy of a land that had once been the pinnacle of Islamic civilization in Europe. The tale of the Taifa kingdoms is one of resilience and adaptation, a testament to the enduring spirit of a people who, even in the face of fragmentation, continued to create, innovate, and inspire. Thus, the collapse of the Caliphate of Cordoba in 1031 CE stands as a dramatic turning point, marking both an end and a new beginning for the storied land of Al-Andalus.